This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/prorevenge. Our first story of today is, Cheat on Me. You'll get deported, arrested, and never see your child again. My ex-boyfriend and I are both native-born citizens of the same country in North America. We got together when I was still in post-secondary working towards my degree, and he was taking some time before he started post-secondary to work and save up money. Our relationship was basically perfect from my perspective. We had similar goals and expectations, we both seemed mature and able to work through any problems we had, and we both were happy to be together and enjoyed each other's personalities. We were together for 3 years prior to this incident. Our relationship hit a bit of a rough patch though when he told me he wanted to study for his degree at a university in Europe. I, of course, was a little bit upset because it meant that we would be apart for 4 years. My job field, medical, would require me to retake schooling if I was to go with him, but he was super excited about it and we determined that we loved each other and no amount of distance could change that. With time I graduated and got my dream job, and I could now afford to rent our shared apartment with just my income, so I didn't have to move when he was no longer there to pay his half. He was having some problems with his student visa for the country, but it was determined that he could get a temporary visa for the first semester while we waited for the other one to be approved. So with that, he left. I remember bawling my eyes out at the airport when I hugged and kissed him goodbye, and parked outside of the airport to watch his plane take off. We talked on the phone almost every night. As unlucky as it was, about 5 weeks after he left, I found out I was pregnant. Horrible timing, I know. When I told him I was pregnant he immediately accused me of cheating on him while he was gone. I thought it was a bit odd, since he had never even mentioned such a thing, and it seemed really out of the blue. That obviously led to a big fight, and I felt offended and disgusted that he would even consider it a possibility. When he came home for Christmas, he was super happy and loved Dove with me, saying he was excited. He even proposed to me on the car ride home from his parents' house on Christmas Eve. I was so happy and overjoyed that it felt like everything would work out okay. When he went back to school, it was again stressful to go through the pregnancy without him, but both his parents and mine were incredibly supportive. They helped me get everything I needed for the baby, and even threw me a surprise baby shower. When I gave birth, my ex watched it over Skype from his mom. When he finished his exams, he came home to be with us. He immediately started talking negatively about our daughter, saying things like, "Why is her hair that color? My hair is brown," and, "Doesn't she have your friend's eyes?" And he again accused me of cheating. So I reluctantly agreed to perform a paternity test to calm his suspicions. Wow, could you believe it, she was his. He agreed to pay informal child support, sending me money to pay for the baby without a lawful order to do so while he was overseas. Now for the fun part. His student visa had still not been approved, so he had to reapply for another temporary semester visa for the next semester. Since he did not have a permanent residence in the country, as he was staying in student accommodations, and he didn't trust the university to not go through official-looking mail, he redirected all of his mail to me, which I would forward to the university in his care packages. When he came to visit us, he had applied for a new passport, as his was going to expire in 6 months. I was tasked with picking it up at the office and sending it forward. However, around midterm exam season, I decided our daughter and I would travel to deliver the care package in person and visit. I had to get her an infant passport and book the tickets, but a couple months later we were getting on a plane. Side note, traveling with a baby sucks and I'm sorry to everyone else on the plane. When we got to the country, I settled into our hotel, but was too eager to see him. I taxied to his university only about 45 minutes from the airport and went to his dorm room on campus. I knocked on the door, holding our daughter. A woman answered the door. At first, I assumed it was his roommate or something, but I don't remember him mentioning he had one. Denial is a powerful thing, I guess. I asked her where he was, and she said he was inside and called out to him. I heard "Who is it, babe?" as he came to the door, and when he saw me, he froze. He went pale and his eyes widened. The woman asked him, "Honey, who is this?" And I just turned and walked away. He called out after me and eventually caught up with me. He basically told me that he's been so lonely without me and he couldn't help it and that he loved me and not her, to which she started yelling at him, calling him a pig and stuff. My baby started crying because I was crying and so I just left without saying anything. I stayed in the hotel for another day, while he continuously called me on my cell phone. I booked last-minute tickets home and left early and ignored every time he called me. I gave myself a week to grieve and then I put my big girl pants on. I immediately hired a lawyer, and asked him what I could do to legally separate my life from him. In my country we were considered common law married. My lawyer advised me to begin the legal separation process, and apply for a hearing about custody and child support. I sent him a thick manila envelope with separation papers and a notice for a hearing about custody in his next package. We talked on the phone on speaker with my lawyer, and he eventually agreed to sign. He sent me a copy. The hearing was scheduled while school was in session, so no surprise he didn't show up. I won full custody and he was given an order to pay child support appropriate for his income. He was paying for his college with a grant mostly, so he had to pay based on the grant. Now this is some revenge, but it went a little further. Remember when I went to see him, I was bringing a care package. That package contained his new passport. His passport expired, and he was still in Europe, so he couldn't travel back to our home country legally. He yelled at me on the phone to send him the passport, but I got an idea. He hadn't been paying the child support, probably because he couldn't afford it with tuition and wasn't working, so he had a warrant for his arrest in my home country because of it, contempt of court, or something. And he had never been approved for a student visa, only the temporary one. And since his final exam concluded and it was summer, he technically wasn't supposed to be in Europe. But he couldn't travel home because he didn't have a passport. It would be a shame if someone anonymously reported him to the embassy for overstaying his visa, now wouldn't it? He got deported back to our home country, where he was arrested at the border. I don't know exactly what happened, but he spent a couple months on probation and with a criminal record, can no longer apply for a visa of any kind to study abroad. Sorry about that future of yours, but I guess you shouldn't cheat on someone who loves you to the ends of the earth, the mother of your child. Have a nice life, because we sure will. Oh, and don't forget to put that check in the mail, it's paying for a little girl's future education. Our second story of today is, you fire me for stealing. I steal your business. My nephew, Bob, had a job selling cell phones at store in a mall. The store was owned by a licensed distributor of one of the big name brands. He was very good at convincing customers to buy calling plans, extended warranties, and accessories that were obscenely profitable. Pretty soon he was the #1 salesman in the store. The owners asked him to transfer to their other store in a different mall, replacing the assistant manager who they had just fired. In addition to an increase in his base pay, he'd get a cut of every sale made while he was in charge. It took him about 2 days to figure out why sales were down. Clueless sales reps and lousy management. The manager would disappear for hours at a time, leaving the sales reps to sit around ignoring customers. Most of them would show up late, leave early, or not bother coming in at all. And when they did speak to a customer, they had no idea how to make a sale. On his first day he outsold them all. After making sure the guys on his shift were actually doing their jobs, especially when it came to selling the high-profit add-ons, the store's sales improved. The store manager saw what was happening and wasn't too happy. He knew it was matter of time before he was kicked out and Bob took his job. One day they received a shipment of new phones. As usual, Bob signed for them and locked them in a storage closet. The next day was his day off. The manager called and insisted he come in immediately because there was problem. Overnight someone had broken into the store and stolen about 100 of these brand new phones. The mall security camera showed 2 people driving up to the back door, opening it with a key, shutting of the alarm and walking out with the phones. The police were called. He was grilled by the police for a couple of hours, but they had no evidence against him and he had an alibi. But the manager convinced the owners that Bob was probably involved since he had signed for the phones, had keys to the door and storage closet, and knew the alarm code. Bob argued that they hadn't changed the locks or code after they fired the previous assistant manager and anyone could know about the shipment. But he was fired. Actually, they allowed him to resign. And they stiffed him on his last commission check. At the other end of the mall was a store that sold phones for one of the competing cell companies. They knew that since he had joined that other store their sales were suffering. They hired him on the spot. Sales improved overnight. One of his favorite tricks was to stand in front of the store and wait for a customer to walk by carrying a shopping bag from that other store. He'd chat them up about their brand new phone, calling plan, warranty, etc. It is amazing how much the average mall shopper is willing to share with a stranger. Then he'd tell them that they probably didn't need the extended warranty and those accessories could be purchased at Walmart for about half the price. And he could sell them the exact phone with better plan for less money. If they agreed, he would walk them back to that other store and tell the clueless sales rep how to avoid that sale he just made, then bring the customer back to his store to pick up their new phone. It took about 3 months before that other store closed its doors. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.